Hi there, my name is Chef Bill Briwa. I'm an instructor here at the Culinary Institute of America, and today we're going to be making onion soup. A classic recipe. It's pretty easy to do, but what really makes this dish special is I'm going to top it with a cheese soufflé. And that cheese soufflé is made with a very special cheese, Montasio. Now, Montasio is from northern Italy, from the mountainous regions of northern Italy. This cheese is made from raw milk, and any raw milk cheese has to be aged for at least 60 days. But this one, typically by the time it comes to the United States, has been aged for 4 or 5 months. It is a cheese that when it's young is kind of fruity, but when it gets older, it gets more full-flavored, and it's appropriate for a dish just like the one we're making today. Let's get started. We're going to cook these sliced onions right here in a big shallow pan with some oil. And I've got the pan nice and hot. The oil is going to go in. It heats up quickly. And as soon as it begins to smoke a little bit, in goes the onions. Now, what I would tell you about this is that there's an ingredient in this recipe that you need to take seriously, and that is patience. You need to get these onions nice and brown. And the problem that you will have is if you stir them too often, they begin to mat together, and that traps moisture in there, and that prevents browning. So let them be nice and light like this, and just check the bottom every now and then. You can expect this pan of soup to take 10-15 minutes worth of browning. But what you're looking for is a color that is like a deep walnut color, something like this right here. And it takes time. Once you get the onions browned to that level, then I would deglaze the pan with a little bit of white wine. I would add thyme and bay. I would simmer it with chicken stock. And after about 15 minutes, I would say your soup just needs to have a little bit of seasoning, and it's done. Take a look at this. You can see the level of browning that I expect in the onions, and you can see the finished soup right here that has a deep, deep, rich color and flavor. I'm going to start what a chef would call the appareil for the soufflé. This is the basis of the soufflé, and it starts with a roux, which is nothing more than butter and flour. And you put those two things together in a pan, and as you cook it, an interesting thing happens. The butter melts, it coats the starch granules, so that later on when we try to thicken that starch, the granules are separated by fat and it won't clump up. For our purposes, we're going to make a white roux. And so what I want to do is just melt the butter and the flour together and cook it until it feels just a little bit sandy. What that tells me is that the starch granules have cooked just a little bit. The other way that you'll know that a roux is ready to move forward is there's a very distinctive smell that comes out of the pot. It goes from smelling like butter and flour to smelling a little bit like cooked popcorn. And when you get that smell, you know that it's probably going to have that sandy feel. So I would say this roux is done. I'm getting that popcorn smell right now. I have some hot milk, and what I want to do is introduce a little bit of the milk and stir it into the roux. And what you will see happening, I'll hold it up so you can see it happening, is it will thicken almost immediately. And I'm going to leverage that thickness to break up any lumps that might be in this pan. Okay? When there's no lumps, then I go back to the heat and I add a second addition of liquid. And again, it will thicken, and I will take advantage of the thickness to break up any additional lumps. And if I keep doing this, I'll reach a point where it is solid but soft, almost to the point where it wants to become liquid, at which point I add the rest of the liquid and smooth it out. But if you can see here, this is thick again. And you do this 2 or 3 times, 4 times, and by the time all the milk is in, you've got what the French would call a bechamel. It's a sauce. Now we're going to take that bechamel and add grated Montasio cheese to it. So we're going to create a Mornay sauce or a cheese sauce, fairly thick one. And this thick cheese sauce will be the basis of our soufflé. What I would plan on doing is let this simmer for 15 or 20 minutes. At the end here, what I'm going to do is season it with a little bit of cayenne. Cayenne is a nice addition because black pepper would look like black specks in a white sauce. So cayenne looks a lot more appealing. I'm going to also season this with some salt and just a splash of lemon juice, just to brighten it up. And then the last addition, once this is cooked for the requisite amount of time, for the 15 or 20 minutes, I'm going to take it, and you can even do this off the heat. I'm going to take the Montasio cheese that's been grated and just add it right into this sauce. And I should be able to stir that, and there should be enough residual heat so that the cheese will melt. I've got the soup made. We made the base for the soufflé. I've got some that I made here yesterday that's been refrigerated. That's ready to go. I've got egg whites. I've got little croutons that are designed to fit right inside of a soup bowl. And then I've got some more shaved Montasio. I'm going to take a couple of egg whites. I'm just making a small amount here. And I'm going to begin to whip these. And it's the whipped egg whites that will lighten our soufflé. As I get to the end, I want to lift it and bring more air in. And I would say these have quadrupled in volume now. They're still kind of shiny and moist. And let's see what happens when I lift the whisk. I lift it up and I get a peak, but it topples over. That's sort of a soft peak. That's what I want. So that's where I want it right now. I'm going to take a portion of this cheese sauce, this soufflé appareil, and I'm going to take a third of these egg whites and I'm going to add them. And this first addition of egg whites will sort of deflate, but it will make this mixture lighter. And I'm cutting down through the middle and coming up on the outside. That's folding. And when it's just about homogeneous, then I'm going to take the second addition, and I'm going to be a little bit more gentle with that. I want to maintain some of that frothy, light texture. And then the final third, I want to be very careful with so that most of the air in this is preserved. So this is a soufflé. What we're going to do is ladle some soup into this soup crock. I'm going to suggest we fill it about 3/4 full. That's about 6 ounces of soup, something like that. And then I'm going to take one of these croutons and I'm going to float it right on the soup. And as it floats there, I'm going to put just a slice or two of this Montasio right on top. Next, I'm going to begin the process of spooning on this soufflé mixture. And it will probably double in size, so don't go too crazy. And then finally, I'm going to lay a little bit more cheese right on the outside. You'll recall from a previous video, if you've watched it already, that this cheese browns beautifully and crisps up in the most delightful way. So this topping will become kind of crisp and brown, and that's just what I want. The oven is preheated, and in it goes at 375. So our soup's been in the oven now for about 12 minutes. Let's take a look and see how it's coming along. You're looking for a couple of things, and I think we've got it all. You're looking for it to be nicely domed the way it is right now. You want the cheese that we put on the outside to be melted and beginning to brown and nice and crisp. Make sure you don't fill it any more than 3/4 full. Otherwise, you'll probably see some of the soup spilling out over the outside. So 3/4 full. And then once it's done, rush it to the table because this souffle waits for no one. Onion soup with Montasio souffle. Give it a try.